All right, guys, I know we all believe this, but entrepreneurship is the unfair wealth creator in America, right? Why? Because taxes, deductions, write-offs, things like that. So let's talk about some of the under the radar opportunities franchisees have in taxes, deductions, and write-offs.
A couple of my favorites, hiring your kids, right? So you can hire your kids $12,000 a year per kid. Document it, and the prerequisite here is CPAs are important, right? We're just spitballing right here, but these are things you can absolutely do. So hire your children. You can do $12,000 each every single year, but make it formal, make them do stuff. And what better way to teach them about entrepreneurship too? So it's double-sided there. So pay them the $12K, document it, make them do some stuff. That's a favorite for our family.
Yeah. Mike, what about you?
Yeah, I think the Augusta rule. You know, I think culture is a big thing for keeping your team around and making them thrive. So when we have big meetings or holiday parties, we rent out to our business our own house. And you can do that for up to 14 days at market value. And rather than throwing it into a random place, I can take that write-off and use my own house for it.
It's a big one.
Yeah, one along those lines that I really like is, especially now after post-COVID, the home office is a huge thing. I mean, the numbers of people using home offices compared to before. And so tax laws have to catch up, right? So now home office deductions are a big thing. I mean, we talked about how landscaping or home improvements can be written off if you're having clients over to your home office and things like that, right? So really, again, talk to your CPA to understand it, but these are open to you because you are a business owner, right? They're not open to everybody. If you have a job or other things, you don't get these types of advantages. So that's why we just believe this is one of the most unfair advantages in creating wealth in America.
Yeah, we love travel. So me and my wife travel a lot. So we try to work that in for our travel. Now, this isn't always applicable for a franchise, but think about like masterminds that are overseas or like in Costa Rica or like these great masterminds that you get to go and learn about business and be around great people, but you can also write off that trip. So it's a 25%. So if you travel overseas, foreign travel, only 25% has to be for business to be fully deductible. So if you think about your travel time there and back, there's 2 days right there. Spend 5 or 6 days over there, you can write off the whole thing.
Time to book the trip.
Let's go.
Yeah. Mike, you got another one?
Yeah, I think kind of to piggyback on that, the mastermind itself.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So your franchisor is going to probably be your biggest mentor, right? Then it's your other franchisees that you learn a lot of. But, you know, I tried to be in a different mastermind and just learn the business of business on a regular basis. And all of that can be through there. So education, masterminds, learning how to hone your craft outside of your specific industry on how to do gutters better. That learning is still a write-off.
Yeah. One of my favorites is depreciation, and not just general depreciation, but some of this accelerated depreciation options. Why I love it so much is because when you purchase the equipment, the idea is that you want to continue to grow, right? So once you have capital gains or income that's going to be taxed, you can either pay your taxes on it or you can reinvest that into growth. Now, I'm a believer that truly living life on your own terms requires you to own maybe several locations, maybe something that is going to allow you to hire more of a team. So how do we get there? We make the first one successful. We buy more equipment. We open the second. We make that successful. We buy more equipment. We open the third. Every time we buy that equipment, we can then leverage. I shouldn't say every time. We want to make sure that it's qualified equipment. But whenever we buy qualified equipment, we can then leverage depreciation to take the tax bill down while we're growing. What an awesome under the radar thing that a lot of people aren't doing.
Not only equipment, but think about your vehicles, your family's vehicles. If they're being used for business, that and over 6,000 pounds, a typical SUV is 6,000 pounds, or a truck, you can write off that the whole thing, honestly, or a portion of it, depending on how much you're using it for your business, but you can accelerate the depreciation on that. So new Tahoe or something, you're using it maybe 50% for business, 60% for business, you can write off that whole thing, or 60% of it.
What else do we want to create for our families? We need health insurance. Guess what? As an entrepreneur, you can write off your health insurance or parts of your health insurance. What about retirement funds?
Sure.
We can put pre-taxed money into a retirement fund and have parts of that written off, right? There's so many things that are available to you because you're an entrepreneur. Mike, any others?
Yeah, I think it's anything that you use personally, if you can find a way to leverage that on a work perspective, right? Cell phone, internet, things that you're going to spend anyway. Find a way that it marries well with your business and you're using it there. And again, to Ryan's point, you're going to be able to pay for it pre-tax or at least a portion of it.
One thing I want to point out, we talked about CPAs, but make sure you find, treat, what's the term you use for your core people?
Oh, my Survivor Alliance.
Yeah, that CPA is super important because a lot of CPAs, they won't tell you these things. What they'll do is they'll be okay with them, right? Like you can bring them to them and they're not really an advisor as much as like a button pusher. Like, sure, we'll do this, good idea. But find that person that's really in your corner that fights for you every year, and like helps you plan. So November rolls around for the following year, you guys are already planning, or maybe even June or whatever. I meet with my CPA 4 times a year. We're planning essentially the whole time. So find that person in your corner that can really help you.
But also be your own advocate.
Yes.
Right?
That's a good point.
In anything, right? Don't go, so how do I pay less in taxes? They're going to say, I don't know, right? Because that adds work for them. So it is on you to bring those ideas a lot of times. And it goes down to who else is in your circle, right? Entrepreneurs, we like talking about taxes. We like talking about money. And it's not from a greed perspective, but it's something that we're interested in. It's a game to us a lot of times. So, be in circles that it is normal and, encouraged to talk about how to grow wealth for your family instead of something that's taboo.
Yeah, a lot of entrepreneurs that I network with, they talk about how the idea of their life and their business are one, right? When you have a job, typically you're thinking, okay, these are the times I spend in my job. These are the times I spend with my family or outside of my job, and it feels separate. For me, the reason I feel like Franchise Sidekick and my business is something that just is who I am is because it is one. Then what's it get me thinking about? It gets me thinking whenever I'm doing personal things, how do I incorporate some work into there? Yeah. When me and my family are traveling to an area that's got one of our team members there, how do I see them? When we get to go an opportunity to see the home office of a franchisor, how do I carve out some time to do that, right? And then of course, there's the tax advantage of that expense. Yep. And that's why I think all the time you just hear entrepreneurs saying, I don't have working hours and off hours. It's just who I am or what I do.
Plus the other side of it, which I mentioned earlier, is the kid aspect of it, right? It teaches your kids. If you're doing this stuff with them, it teaches them along the way, which I love.
That is such an important part to me that I want to comment on it. I cannot tell you the sense of purpose that I have when my kids ask me questions about what we do and we say we help other people become business owners, right? Or the fact that when we see a franchise that we've placed sitting on the corner and we get to talk about that was from our efforts, right? That satisfaction of the example to my kids is just as important to me as many of the other things in the business.
Yeah, and they absorb that too, because I was telling a story a little bit ago about my son who's 8 years old asked me, why do all the insurance companies have funny commercials? And for him to pick up on that, because I'm like, well, because insurance is boring and they're trying to make you laugh, right? But all of a sudden I was like, oh, proud dad moment, because I never would have talked about insurance. He picked up on that. It was awesome, So it's just, he's at that age where I'm like, oh, this is really cool stuff.
Just the last thing I want to say, and to wrap this up, and again, it's why I'm so passionate about helping people become entrepreneurs. Most of this is not available to you unless you are an entrepreneur. Right? When we talk about helping people become entrepreneurs, reducing their risk through franchising and the other things we offer, it's because we know that it's the unfair advantage to wealth creation. You just have to do it in a way that protects the downside and do it right.